Constantly changing my mind. Feels like I'm burning inside. Will it ever be different? Will we always be distant? 'Cause something that I need to tell you. Maybe we can do this together. Grab my car, let's go for a ride, yeah. We don't need to try. 'Cause something that I need to tell you. Maybe we can do this together. Grab my car, let's go for a ride, yeah. Thinking you will cry.
tempo. Stop for a minute, gotta find the tempo. Tempo.
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Monday, March 8th edition of Level Up Live, your home for gaming and esports news brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. You can call me John, and the dude right next to me, the man, the myth, the legend, the king of the courtside, his name is Joey. What's up, buddy?
John, today's episode is going to be interesting. It feels like everyone in the gaming world right now is waiting to see what happens with this Microsoft-ZeniMax deal. And because of it, gaming news is very sparse at the moment. So I think it's going to be one of our shorter shows today overall.
So every time we say it's going to be a short show, Joey, I feel like it's the kiss of death. So short show in our vocab for the nation is like 30 to 40 minutes. Okay. Our shows usually hit about that 60, 65, 70 minute mark. Whenever we say it's a short show, it always hits like, it feels like an hour and 20 minutes, Joey.
Now, I will say, I think this is the least amount of topics we have ever had on an episode.
Correct. I will agree with you
sure
on that. It is a little bit slow. It is a little bit slower, but we will definitely fill it in here for you. But first, Nation, as always, if you're listening to the show, if you're watching the show here live on Twitch, welcome. Thank you for tuning in as always. But this also means you should be following us on social media. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at LvLUp Live. That is at LvLUp Live. And while you're on Twitter, make sure you follow Joey for all of the shilling of the Xbox if you possibly can. If you want even more of the Xbox propaganda, Joey's your guy at Courtside King. And for the crying Sony fanboy that actually is really upset with Sony and that damn banana controller, follow me at Fiasco. There you go. If you're watching here live on Twitch, those mugshots you're staring at right below that in that cool little font below, those are our handles. So those are our names there. You can see it there and follow from there. If you listen on the podcast version of the show later on down the road, they'll be in the show notes for you below. So feel free to scroll on down on your podcatcher of choice and check that out as well. Speaking of the podcast version, Joey, did you know we're available on a podcast version for this show? If you can't catch a live stream here on Twitch, there is an audio version of this show.
Do I? Yes.
Did you know, Joey? I tricked that
know that was
question.
a rhetorical question that I wasn't supposed to answer.
Rhetorical.
I've heard rumors.
You've heard. Well, those rumors happen to be true. In fact, that's where the show got its original start from. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're listening to the podcast version, there's a really cool thing we're going to ask you to do. Now, nobody else can do this. You can't do it on Twitch. You can't do it on YouTube. You can't do it on any streaming platform other than podcatchers. And of course, that is leaving a rating and a review for the show. Not only does it make us feel good about the content we're giving you, but we can tailor the content that you, our viewers and listeners, want. We can bring you more content that you are interested in to the show. So all reviews and feedback is appreciated. So please do take a small moment out of your day and leave us some really awesome feedback.
One more thing on that, John. We never talk about it on the show, but we have a YouTube page as well, guys. We don't really utilize it the way we should, but LvLUp is on there. And since like 99% of you listen to the show on a podcast format, if you ever do want to check out the video format without going to Twitch, YouTube is an option for that as well.
There you go. Joey, it is Monday, the 8th of March. I believe this week marks the 1 week anniversary of the lockdown from coronavirus. So we are 1 year in. We're celebrating this week, Joey. We are still quarantined. We have not received the shot. We are quarantined. We are waiting for the whole pandemic to end. It's the 1 year anniversary, Joey. So let's make today's topics special. What are we talking about today, sir?
John, our light load of topics, we are going to break down the full Xbox Bethesda announcement as far as what we know is coming, as far as what we're going to predict is coming, looking at some pros and cons of both sides, talking about what the deal includes, some of the stuff that could come up from it later this year versus later down the line. So really diving heavily into that. And from there, John, we got a few rumors and things on here, as well as some leaks. We're going to talk about Tomb Raider and a leak that's coming out in March, and then FromSoftware, a couple leaks on that end as well. And we're going to dive a little bit into Monster Hunter, Super Nintendo World in Japan, a couple more things, and then wrap it up.
All right. We have our topics, but that does not mean we can start the show. If you're a listener or viewer of the show, you know there's one more segment we have to hit, and it might be the most important segment of the entire show, Joey. It is the Aslan drink of choice, it feels like, if we're just going to go ahead and throw a random sponsor on there for you. The drink of choice segment, which means you're probably having bourbon or whatever today. The drink of choice, Joey, what are you having for today on the 8th of March?
John, I'm actually not super fancy. I've gone with a sparkling water today. It's a Spindrift Sparkling Lime. I did all my drinking this weekend for Master Chief's birthday.
Oh, that's precious. What kind of gift did you get him?
I got him my future playtime on Halo Infinite later in the fall.
You got him? Okay, so that's...
Is
that kind of like deferring a payment in sports? Like you're like, okay, cool, we
like
want
that,
you now, but we'll pay you later.
Yeah, 100%. That guarantee later down the line. It could be the Bobby Bonita of Halo Infinite. We'll see.
That's a crappy present. Moving on, Joey. Back on the hard seltzer. I got 2 left I need to finish up before I buy more. And of course, it's my least favorite It is the mango lemonade brought to you by Truly. Truly is great. The mango lemonade, not so much. So I got this one and one more I have to stomach down because wasting alcohol is just a crime against humanity. You just can't do it. So Joey, I have my beverage. I also am rocking a Sprite. You can't. Oh, there you go. Sprite Ginger. Apparently that's their
Ginger.
version. Yeah. So you know how everyone's coming out with like really weird flavors all of a sudden? I saw this the other day. I like ginger. I think ginger is really cool. Mix it with lemon lime. I thought it was kind of neat. Bought a couple packs. It was on sale. Pretty impressed. Not too shabby. So I'm dual wielding, if you will, Joey. I have dually needlers going tonight. So there's your Halo reference. Joey, we have our drinks. We have our Halo references. We have our topics. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
Now, I have to ask, John, I was never a Halo 2 player. Maybe you were. Could you actually dual wield needlers?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds really broken.
I don't know if I could say what it was called back in the day when you do it. You know the nickname for people named Richard?
Oh my God.
It was called Needle nickname for Richard. There you go. Well, we'll let the we'll let the audience put that together. Yes, it was a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yes, it was broken. It was very broken.
Sounds hella broken. Spitfire, thanks for joining us in chat tonight as well. Again, a little bit of a shorter episode, but we're going to dive deep into this. Welcome to get questions from the audience as well in chat. Love to hear your guys' opinions as always, too. So, John, kicking things off, we're going to dive deep into this Xbox Bethesda announcement. We believe it's coming on Thursday. So, from my sources, I've heard a couple rumors that Thursday is looking like the day. Then Jeff Grubb came out with his edited Summer Game Fest mess thing that ends up going from February to like July because, you know, that's all summer. But the way video games are going right now, it feels like announcements are constant, except for this week in topics. But later in the week, we do have this potentially coming out on Thursday. So what does it mean? What do we expect to see as the format? I think that's the first question here, John. As this format, you have all different speculation. You have people expecting like a full E3 style briefing with pictures of Starfield and trailers of all these other Bethesda games and maybe showing character creation for Elder Scrolls and all these crazy, crazy ambitious thoughts. And you have other people who are just like, it's going to be a blog post, a simple blog post, maybe with a picture or two in it, and that's all you're going to get. Then you have other people who are like, oh, we're going to get videos of this and videos of that, whether there be of games or talking with the development teams. What are your thoughts of this announcement? If it does come on Thursday, what do you expect fans to get?
I would love an E3 style briefing. I would love something absolutely massive. I want to see a dude on stage. I want to see, a projector screen come down from behind. I want to see not just the numbers behind the merger and what kind of great things is going to be coming from this merger. I want to see what is coming down the line. Like, get me excited for this merger. We all know it's big. We all know it's going to be absolutely massive. Give us some leaks. Give us some updates. Give us some teasers, some Easter eggs. Xbox has been very good at throwing Easter eggs into a lot of their ads as of lately. Continue to do that. Make the community speculate what's going to happen next. Give enough information and get the base excited and drag them along. But it cannot be a blog post. I really think if it is a blog post, it's too extreme in the other direction. If you're going to tone it down, it has to be somewhere in the middle. You need to have some kind of multimedia announcement that gets the fan base hyped. Bethesda coming over to Microsoft is absolutely massive. The games that Bethesda have pumped out over the years is absolutely huge. And the fact that now they're going to be Xbox exclusives for X amount of period of time before they become multi-console or whatever they decide to do with it is absolutely huge. Give us a teaser because this is going to be another great presentation moment, or real marketing moment, really, to convince people who still haven't had a chance to buy that next generation console. Why should they go with Xbox? Like, we've already heard what Microsoft is offering with this new generation, but put those words into practice. Show us some multimedia of the games coming up. Tell us what's going on, and that might be enough to sway a lot of people on the fence to go Xbox.
Okay, so with that in mind, John, do you think we see Starfield, this long-awaited title that we haven't seen a trailer for, except for a logo being shown, like, I think, 2 years ago or something like that at E3 in the Microsoft showcase? Do you think we get some gameplay or some screenshots of Starfield or even information in general?
So with that being said, Joey, we are celebrating the 1 year anniversary of COVID, which also is the 1 year anniversary of when the video game industry came to a very quick screeching crawl. I would love to see gameplay, but at the same time, I feel like we can't expect it. I really feel like we can't expect maybe a cinematic of some sort, something they could have put together to hype it a little bit more. But I think if they show gameplay, it'll be very, very, very small. It'll be a very small sample of what we see just because of everything that's been going on with COVID. It feels like they may have not been able to advance it enough as they want, where they feel comfortable enough to release a full 2-3 minute trailer for this game. We might see like a 1:30 announcement with a lot of cinematics, maybe 15-20 seconds of gameplay built in to help build the hype around it. That's more of what I'm expecting. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't get like less than that, just because of what the world's been going through with COVID and how that's impacted the development of video games.
Yeah, I'm very much in a similar vein there. I don't think we're going to get anything big. I definitely don't think we're going to get any kind of gameplay trailer. If we do get anything, I think it'll be purely cinematic based. Like you said, maybe you get 10 to 15 seconds or whatever of gameplay footage mixed in there, but nothing more than that. I honestly don't even know if we get a trailer because E3 or Summer Game Fest or whatever they end up doing is right around the corner as well. So you're looking at like 3 months worth of time. Your biggest game that's potentially coming out either this year or next year is going to be Starfield. It's kind of that AAA, that next Fallout, the next Elder Scrolls. I don't know if they want to play their cards here at a March event. With that being said, I don't think it's going to be a blog post either. I think you'll get a blog post, but I think it'll be secondary. I'm thinking it's going to be a video. I think it'll be some kind of video. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the Xbox family. I would love for it to dive in with the different teams. Like give us a look at the studio head of each of the 8 studios. What are you guys working on? Working on da-da-da and this other unannounced project. Get excited. I don't know, something simple like that. Maybe you go through like, how has it been working under Bethesda during COVID? What have been some of the struggles? I don't know what they end up doing, but I think some kind of introduction with the dev teams, even if it's like a light, quick thing, would be really cool to add in. Gameplay is what people want to see. They want that gameplay announcement. Unfortunately, I wouldn't go in to this particular showcase expecting to see too much. Like John said, COVID has really ravaged the industry. I still think some Bethesda games will come out this year that are expected or maybe even not expected. But it is one of those things that I don't expect too much gameplay to be shown. So I'm going hybrid. I'm not going full E3 showcase. I'm not going full blog post. I think you might get a blog post secondary once again, but I think the main thing is going to be some kind of video. Yeah, I think it'll be a video. I don't know if it'll be pre-recorded or just a complete YouTube video drop, but I think it'll be some kind of video dropping on Thursday. Okay, so that brings us to the next big topic, the topic that Xbox fanboys and PlayStation fanboys are crazy about. What do they call them? Xbots and ponies, I think, are the 2 big nicknames out there right now. This is big. It comes down to exclusivity. And I think one of the biggest arguments is very interesting to read on Twitter or Reddit or wherever you end up going is if this was a Sony acquisition or a Nintendo acquisition, there would be no question at all as far as exclusivity. If it was Sony or Nintendo, it would 100% be exclusive to those platforms. But because of Xbox and it is more consumer friendly in a sense, their approach there. And I think people are looking at it in that sense. They have been a lot more open with sharing things with different platforms, whether it be Minecraft, whether it be some of these other games like Cuphead has went to Switch as well. I think Cuphead might be on PlayStation now too. Ori has gone to Switch. So some of these Microsoft exclusive titles have been shared, even though they've been published by Microsoft. With that being said, a lot of people are questioning the exclusivity here, John. And there's a few different options. Before we break them down, what are your initial thoughts here on exclusivity in this particular deal?
The video gamer in me can understand why you'd want exclusivity. There we go. For Xbox, because that's been the way the video game industry has been in the past. It's you're either buying a PlayStation and the catalog that PlayStation gives you. You're buying an Xbox and you're buying the catalog that Xbox gives you. Yes, there are games that come out on both consoles, but there are very specific types of games that are featured on Xbox or on PlayStation. That's the way it's been. Even when Sega Genesis was a thing, when Sega Dreamcast was a thing, Nintendo, there are certain games only available on the Game Boy Color, DS, even the Switch now. It's console exclusivity for a reason. It's to help pump people to buy your console. That's where the bread and butter comes in. If you can convince someone to splash $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 for your console, you're set. You're locked in. So it makes sense why you want that. But at the same time, the gamer in you doesn't want to be pinned down. Like, you don't want to have to make that decision of, oh, all my friends are on Xbox, but I've been a loyal PlayStation fanboy since day one. Do I continue down PlayStation and not be able to play the same games that my friends are on unless I have to either buy a second console or give everything up that I have on the Sony platform and jump over to Xbox? It's a really tough decision. In the past year, we've seen Microsoft be very open with the idea of cross-console play, of a lot of developers with the idea of multi-console play or interaction, if you will. So I would love to see if there is going to be title exclusivity as a limited time title exclusivity. I'm going to struggle with that word the entire night here, because again, like, if you're going to sit and tell me I only have to wait 6 months or 8 months to get it before I can play with my friends on Xbox, that might make me feel a little bit better about wanting to continue down the Sony platform, which again would go against the whole idea of having an exclusive title on Xbox. But I feel like that's just the direction the industry is going to be going, to have it open up to all gamers regardless of console, because it just feels too restrictive. And as gamers, we don't want to be restricted. That's one of the great things about being a PC gamer, is that, we're not, one of the things that we really enjoy is not being restricted by the console, not being restricted by that technology. When a console comes out, you are time locked into technology from when that product was produced. Yes, you get the mid-generation update, which is great, but are you really going to pay another $400, $500, $600 to get the mid-generation update? If you play on a computer, guess what? Yeah, it's going to cost you more up front, but you're going to be playing at a higher level. You're going to get a bigger, better experience than you ever can on a console for more years before you have to plunge more money into upgrading your graphics card or upgrading your processor or upgrading your RAM. There's so many different things that are open to you as a PC gamer. I feel like having that option is one of the best things about being a PC gamer. And I think being able to do that with game titles in general for console players still would be the best option. So I think we're going to see title exclusivity for a limited time period before it's opened up on multi-platform.
Oh, this is exciting. This is a hot topic. And I agree, John. I think as we go, and we've been talking about it with Sony for over a year, and now they finally announced it. And I'll tell you guys, this fall, there's going to be a whole lot of Sony games that are going to drop that are not announced yet. But think like all of the big Sony games, pretty much all of those giant exclusives will be dropping on PC. And again, it's COVID, so pending everything related to that, I think they're all going to end up dropping later in the fall of 2021, though. So I'm talking like the big boy collections, like the stuff that you never thought potentially would leave PlayStation will be going to PC. Now, again, PC is different than Xbox. It's different than Nintendo. It's not saying just because it goes to a Microsoft-based platform means it's going to go to that rival console. I highly doubt that'll happen. If we ever see the day where Halo is on PlayStation and God of War is on Xbox, that could be the end. That could be the apocalypse coming for the gaming world. But it would be a cool direction, like John said, just the ability to cross-play with really more friends in general. With God of War, it doesn't really matter as much. It's more allowing those Xbox or Nintendo gamers to experience that experience. But with Halo, something that's multiplayer based, Gears of War, even anything like that, I think will greatly benefit from being on different platforms. And we've already seen it with PC. Gears of War gained a huge crowd. Halo Master Chief Collection gained a huge crowd of players. And as you continue to expand to more platforms, the same thing can happen there as well. Now, with the story-based games, your God of War, your Horizon Zero Dawn, in this case with Bethesda, your Fallout, everything but 76, Elder Scrolls, everything but Elder Scrolls Online. These are big, deep single-player games. These are games that can drive that single-player action-adventure market in a sense. And we've seen Sony do it. I mean, look at Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War, two third-person action-adventure games that have pretty much drove that console sales. The Last of Us being another one. Ghost of Tsushima did really well as a new franchise. So Sony has been killing it. Uncharted is another one. I can name them for days. Sony has been doing a very, very good job with these single-player narratives, and that's one area where Xbox has kind of lacked. Like, yeah, Gears of War had a great campaign, but it's more co-op based, and it's known for its multiplayer. Halo, decent campaign, depending on which Halo you look at, but again, known for its multiplayer. Xbox as a console is more known for its multiplayer games, while PlayStation, on the other hand, is known for those single-player, deep, rich experiences. And I think that's one reason we see Xbox going out here and getting Bethesda. So in the end, did they spend $7.5 billion just to put these games day one on Game Pass and to make Game Pass that much more interesting for gamers out there who could be subscribing? Or did they get it for not only Game Pass, but also for that exclusivity to drive more people to the console? I honestly don't know the answer to that question. If I'm going to spend $7.5 billion like this, I think there has to be some kind of exclusivity. I don't think you launch day one on PlayStation as well. I think you go longer than what you said, though, John. I think you go at least 1 year of exclusivity. I think a lot of people are hoping this is a full platform exclusive. If you're not a PlayStation fan, I feel like almost everyone else is hoping for a full platform exclusive, because with Xbox, you're still going to have it launch on PC and you're still going to have it launch on cloud, mobile, tablet, whatever you want to call it nowadays, via xCloud. So with all that in mind, I don't think being a full exclusive is a bad thing for the Xbox ecosystem, mainly because you also have those other two major platforms to play these games on still. So if you're a PlayStation fan, you can still play it via cloud somewhere on a mobile device. You can even hook it up with your PC on cloud if you wanted, just on a basic laptop, because it's running in the cloud, not on your native machine. So with that in mind, I think going full exclusive would be fine. You're going to have an outrage from PlayStation fans, but I don't think the gaming industry as a whole will get that mad at you, because there's still those other entryways into your ecosystem. If you go limited exclusive, I think it has to be a full limited exclusive and at least a year long. I don't want to see stuff like Sony does where they buy like a Call of Duty game mode or they buy a character in Avengers. I don't want any of that coming from the Xbox side. I think that's trashy behavior in the games industry. And I get it. People can still play your game day one. They're just missing these things that they might never get depending on the game. I'm just not a fan of that. I would rather be full exclusivity for a limited amount of time or full exclusivity forever, as opposed to let's pick and take out little quests here and there, take out characters, limit DLC time drops. I'm not a big fan of that personally. So if I had to guess, I think we get at least 1 year of limited exclusivity, but would not be surprised with full exclusive. The surprise factor for me, John, to turn it back over to you, I would be stunned if there's no exclusivity at all.
Yeah, I would be stunned with that as well. I think partial would be the best case scenario. Full would be pretty much what's expected. I mean, I feel like full is par for the course, because that's just how the gaming industry and consoles have been. But it wouldn't surprise me if Microsoft was the one to break that mold. They've been doing it, what it feels like, for like the past 18 months. They've been really trying to hammer home and break this mold of, gamers versus studio and developers. And it feels like every other week Microsoft is doing something right. I mean, even when they do something wrong, like hiking the price of Xbox Live, they walked it back within 24 hours. So, I mean, like, they got the hint. Social media told them what they think of it, and they walked it back. I mean, that was one of the smartest moves, and they owned up to it. Like, it's one thing to walk it back and be like, hey, okay, fine, we heard you. Like, we won't do it. They walked it back, they owned up to it, and they even gave a little something extra in return for ticking off the gamers, which is very not... like it's not normal. Like it like when you think about it and you think about like the history of gaming, it's very confusing, or instead it's very hard to think of another time when a console developer did something like that, when they implemented something and then walked it back within 24 hours, or let alone a day or two or a month, apologized and gave something up in return also. Now, who knows, maybe, whether it was in the works or not, but the way they played it off was a PR like dream. Like, it was exactly what they needed to do. And no one was mad about it. Everyone was like, okay, cool, awesome. They heard it and they listened. I feel like that would be Microsoft to break this mold of being exclusive only for the life of the game. If it is a year, maybe if it's 2 years, maybe if it's 18 months, who knows? But I feel like they would be the ones to break that mold, that ideology that it has to stay console exclusive. And I think that would open up Pandora's box here, and really force Sony to think about this whole idea. Like, yes, like we've already seen PlayStation titles come to the PC, and, Sony fanboys are going absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over it for whatever reason. But that's a step in the right direction. I really do feel like that. Like, that's the way you get gamers to play those titles. Joey, it's going to be easier for me to sit here and buy a title that's exclusive on Xbox, it's going to be easier for me to buy that title and play it on my PC for $60 versus me buying a $500 Xbox and a $60 game to play that title. You know, that $60 Xbox may not have gotten from me from the get-go if it was just Xbox console exclusive. And I'm not the only one who thinks like that. There are hundreds, thousands, millions of gamers out there that aren't in the Microsoft ecosystem for the Xbox that are going to buy Xbox products because they can be played on the PC. Like, can you imagine? Like, it just opens it up for gamers. So best case scenario, yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, limited time exclusive. Worst case scenario, we stick with the status quo and it's solely Xbox.
Okay, so here's another interesting thought to throw your way. What are your thoughts if it becomes... I'm trying to think of how to word it. So one of the big arguments that has gone around recently is the ability for Game Pass to go to the Nintendo Switch or the PlayStation 5 console. Microsoft has said they are willing to put Game Pass on both of those consoles, and they're willing to open up their ecosystem via Game Pass to those consoles. Do you see a world where we might have Microsoft lock it behind that Game Pass edition? Like, hey, Sony, we would love to give you these Bethesda titles, but in return, you've got to put Game Pass or some version of Game Pass on the PS5. Or same with Nintendo. We'll give you these and we'll make them, even though the Switch can't run a title this powerful, we'll make it happen through Xbox Series X blades of X Cloud and do it through cloud gaming if you put Game Pass on your console. Do you think we could see a limitation where that becomes the agreement?
In a perfect world, yes. Sony and Nintendo, no. I don't see that happening. And as much as I would love to see it happen, it's essentially allowing Xbox to sap that market on your console also. Like if I'm a member of the PlayStation Network and I go into the PlayStation Store, you know, I have my PS Plus subscription, I get my free game and so on and so forth. You know, what's the benefit of that? What's the benefit of that if I can pay $14.99 and get, you know, the Xbox Game Pass and get access to thousands and thousands of games that I may or may not have had access to before? Now that money's going to Microsoft and I'm playing on a Sony PlayStation. Like, from a business standpoint for Sony, I don't see them making that kind of concession. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, it would literally be the apocalypse in the gaming world, Joe. I mean, you take a look at how the Sony fanboys responded when we talked about this last episode, when Sony stopped with the whole buying movies and renting movies on the PlayStation Store. They blew a gasket, even though everyone admits that like 99.9% of the world's population uses Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon to get all of their movie and online content or other streaming devices, not named anything on Xbox, not named anything on PlayStation. They all have those apps downloaded on those consoles, but they don't use the Microsoft Store. They don't use the PlayStation Store to get those movies. To me, I don't see that being... I think it benefits more Microsoft than anybody else if it was able to go on Nintendo and Sony. In a perfect world, I think it would be great. But I just don't see Nintendo and Sony kind of giving up that kind of... I don't want to call it a restriction, but it kind of feels like it kind of feels like that would be opening up a gateway for people to leave their consoles and go into the Xbox gaming market because of the Game Pass. Because, I mean, Joey, as much as I hate to say it, it really is a great deal. And people on PlayStation and Nintendo may be like, hey, this is a better deal overall. Maybe I should look at investing more into the Xbox ecosystem. Maybe I'm selling my Switch. Maybe I'm selling my PlayStation 5 now to afford an Xbox because I see how great the grass is on the other side. It's super green over there. I mean, it's Xbox. Green's one of their main colors. It's super green grass over there. I feel like that would just open up that gateway to flood players over to the Xbox side, and that's exactly what Sony and Nintendo don't want.
Okay, I'm really glad you took that side because that is usually the typical side that most people are taking, whether they're journalists, whether they're analysts, whatever they are in the industry. That seems to be the popular side. Now, I just want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Not that I necessarily agree with this, but for Nintendo, if you look at the titles on Game Pass, the majority of titles on Game Pass are not already on Nintendo. Plus, you already know Nintendo is never going to put Mario or Zelda or any of those big franchises onto Xbox. So, as a Nintendo handheld user here, I'm almost thinking, why not? These are bringing in a total huge catalog of games that we're not selling anyway. So one, it gives all these people access to these games. Two, our console can't even run these games natively, but we get them via xCloud. So the servers are doing all the work for us. And then as Nintendo, you're still selling your Mario games, your Zelda games, your Metroid games, your big premium games that people are buying Switches for anyway. So on the Nintendo side, I actually would not be surprised if we eventually do see a deal with Microsoft to bring some kind of Game Pass. Again, it might not be the full version, but some sort of version of Game Pass to the Switch. Now on the PlayStation side, I do think it is more Microsoft favored regardless of which way you look at it, because as you said, it's kind of opened up that Pandora's box of now I'm into the Microsoft ecosystem. Do I want to dive in further? And I think you could take it either way, especially with how hardcore a lot of Sony fanboys are, at least the outspoken ones, at least. But at the same point, I'm also thinking if Sony's console gets access to all of those Xbox exclusives via one monthly price of $10.99 or whatever it's going to cost over there, why would I ever buy an Xbox? Like, yeah, I might have friends, I might have achievements or whatever based on my profile for being there for years. But if I can buy a PlayStation, still get every single Xbox exclusive, and still pay 60 or 70 bucks for all the PlayStation exclusives, I don't see a world as a console-only gamer where you would not go with the PlayStation in that case.
I like that argument. I think I definitely agree with your Sony argument there. Okay.
I mean, it's just interesting, and no one's really bringing it up.
Yeah.
But I feel like even me being someone who much prefers Xbox at this point, I think I would buy a PS5 in that case. Like, I'm mainly PC, but if I can get a console for my sports games, plus still have access to Xbox consoles that play better, titles that play better on console, plus all of those PlayStation exclusives, like your Horizon Zero Dawn, your God of War, all these rich single-player experiences, I just don't see why I wouldn't go that direction if Game Pass is there.
Prophet says the biggest issue with your argument, Joey, is you're assuming that he has friends, which is a very, very valid point. Prophet, you have plenty of friends. Shut up. No, I like that argument, and I think that's a very valid argument. But at the same time, it's like, okay, obviously the games that are already multi-platform, those aren't going to be as big of a deal. Obviously you're looking at those exclusive titles, and, for Nintendo, you're banking on the fact that, Mario has such a pull that people are still going to buy the Switch, and then add on the Xbox ecosystem, to that, from the xCloud version. I think that's a decent gamble. I feel like people buy the Switch regardless, just because it's portable. I feel like portable gaming has always been a thing that's kind of fascinated people, like ever since like the Game Boy originally came out. People were like, oh, you can game on the go. And then the whole evolution of that to the current generation of the Switch. I feel like that's the biggest thing here, is that it's portable gaming. And I think, I don't know, I have a harder time with that example thinking that Nintendo would do it. Your argument is a very good point. It's games that wouldn't be coming to the Switch regardless. It's games that people who usually buy the Switch may or may not even be interested in. When it comes to Nintendo products, it does tend to be a younger age group that plays the Nintendo Switch. Until you get to our age group, Joey, then we all have it also, because we have commutes that we have to do on the way to work, and we don't want to go to work, and we play video games on the Metro. So there's that. But I don't know. I'm actually really fascinated by that Sony example you gave. And I'm really trying to process all of it, because it does make a lot of sense. Sony would miss out on the games essentially that are multi-platform. They wouldn't buy it for PlayStation exclusively. It would be going through the Xbox Game Pass, so they'd be losing the money there. I'd be interested to see if there's a certain cut from the Game Pass that goes to Sony from this deal, for allowing Microsoft to have their Game Pass on that platform. I would imagine there have to be some sort of compensation. I don't know. I mean, look, Joey, anytime Microsoft and Sony team up, it makes me feel very weird and confused. And while it does make sense, that's the problem, is it makes sense. And if there's one thing I have learned about the video game industry, is that it does not make sense. And I think that's something that's food for thought. I would be interested in revisiting that scenario here in the future. I feel like that's something I'm gonna have to sit down and actually think about because you do make a very valid point.
Now, it's one of those things, and again, I was playing devil's advocate. I don't think it ever happens.
No, it
but I
doesn't,
don't think people are really looking at the angles of what the positives could be for Sony as well there. And I think it's one of those interesting things, like rolling it over, because then you also think of all the money that Sony is paying in limited time exclusives. Like, guys, they have spent a ton of money. Like, we're talking like studio acquisition money on pure limited time exclusives for like 6 months to a year. Like that one single mode they had in Call of Duty was worth like what some of these freaking studios cost as a full studio to bring on as an acquisition. It's crazy the freaking amount of money that they are spending on limited acquisitions. So if you look at it from that angle too, not only are you getting all those Xbox titles, you're probably having more people buy your console because they can now get those Xbox titles plus your own exclusive titles. You're going to get a cut of some sort from Game Pass there. And now you don't have to spend millions of dollars on these limited time exclusives because people are already buying your console even more anyway. Like, I don't know. I almost feel like Sony comes out on top of that as well as Microsoft. It's like a win-win in my opinion. But again, it's one of those things that's a little hairy because then, well, why do you keep the Xbox console around? Should we just get rid of the console altogether? And then there's no competition anymore. And then that becomes a whole nother issue. So I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but it is one that, at least from my perspective, based on what I've read, it hasn't really been discussed too much in that particular regard. Okay, a few other facets in this deal, and then we'll move on, John. So Microsoft, what are they getting out of this deal? They are getting 2,000 plus staff members. They are, to my knowledge, keeping everyone on board. No one is being laid off, and Bethesda will continue to operate as it always has in regard to the studio breakdown and those staff members. On top of that, you're gaining 8 studios. So this is the 8 studios overall. Now, some of those studios have sub-studios. Bethesda, I think, has 2 or 3 sub-studios. So you have the one in Bethesda, Maryland. I think you have one down in Texas, if I remember correctly. And there might even be another one over in Europe. Don't quote me on that. But you're looking at 8 main studios. And then on top of that, whatever other smaller studios are broken down as far as teams in different areas under those particular studios. You're looking at the IP rights to franchises like Doom, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. Dishonored falls in there as well as a popular one. Lots of rich IP comes from the ZeniMax Bethesda deal. And then on top of that, you also own rights to these engines as well. The Creation Engine, which is used in stuff like Elder Scrolls, the ID Tech Engine, which was used in Doom. You have technology like Orion that no one is talking about. This is supposedly the best cloud-based technology out there right now that's really not up there for public use yet because it was being developed by Bethesda and has not really become public as of yet on launch. I expect that to be implemented right into xCloud. Give it a year or so once this deal ends up being made. Then we'll see how that ends up integrating into xCloud and possibly taking down a lot of that latency that's currently there. But overall, John, this is mega. This is one of the biggest deals we've ever seen made in video game history. $7.5 billion coming out here and all of these rights being transferred over. Again, the biggest deal right now is exclusivity. I don't even know if we're going to hear a real formative answer coming on Thursday. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis for some of these titles. Like Indiana Jones is one that was recently announced from a Bethesda studio. I believe it's Arcane working on that one. If I'm Lucasfilm Games, I almost feel like you say, hey, we'll let you use our IP, but you have to publish it on every other console out there, at least the ones that can run it. So maybe you don't see it on Nintendo Switch, but I think you see it on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. You look at stuff like Wolfenstein. So you had the original one, you had the second one. Do you end that trilogy and allow PlayStation users to see the end of that trilogy? Or do you say, hey, this is full exclusive. We're only going to do this on Xbox. And then you have stuff like Starfield that's announced that hasn't been said on any platform yet. Do you just keep it Xbox and PC because nothing has been published? Or do you give it to PlayStation as well? Because there's probably some development done for PlayStation, given the amount of time that game has been in development. So lots and lots of questions around this overall. I do expect some of these questions to be answered on Thursday. I am afraid some of them will get cloudier answers than people want to hear. But I do expect more of that to become a bit more clear as we get closer to E3/Summer Game Fest/Summer, whatever happens with these games. The last thing, John, to mention here, and this is interesting, E3 will keep Xbox, or I don't know if it's going to be E3 again. I don't really know what they're doing. But Xbox is going to do their own showcase and Bethesda will do their own showcase. So they are keeping the stuff separate because both feel like they have enough to mention for almost 2 to 3 hours worth of content. Whew. Anything else to talk about on that one? Again, guys, Thursday should be the deal. John, any other final exclusivity thoughts or fancy announcements or Starfield news?
Nope. I think we hit it all pretty well.
Hit it all pretty well. There you go, guys. We talked like 40 minutes all on that deal. See, we can make small topics work. Just a couple other topics to cover on today, and then we'll wrap it up for you guys. John, have you ever played the Tomb Raider series when they redid it as the like definitive Tomb Raider series?
When it was redone, no. I played Tomb Raider back with the PlayStation 1-esque graphics, if you will, where it was very awkward but cool at the same time.
Awkward but cool at the same time. Well, guys, if you want to jump into the new Tomb Raider, it has been leaked that there's a Tomb Raider Definitive Survivor trilogy. That one is coming out on the Microsoft Store, at the very least on PC. That's where it was initially leaked. It looks really cool. It's like a gold cover. It's got Lara Croft in her kind of like stance for the 3 title cover photos of all 3 of the games under that collection, which is Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. According to the store listing, March 18th is the date that should be releasing. I would assume you also get this on Xbox, probably on PlayStation. I'm doubtful for Switch, but I think you will get both Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation 5 at the very least, maybe PlayStation 4 as well, and then you will probably see it come to PC. I'm kind of excited for that one. Like, it's not a Mass Effect trilogy worth of like amazingness in that sense. Mass Effect being such a bigger game, such deeper dialogue as far as how your choices matter. But I do feel like the Tomb Raider reboot was quite good. I feel like the gameplay is good. The story has some twists. I've played through 2 of them so far. I haven't played through Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but it is one I'd highly recommend up there if you're interested in kind of that third-person action adventure with a little bit of puzzle mixed in. Okay, next bit is big grain of salt time. This is FromSoftware. There were a couple leaks and rumors that came out this past week. FromSoftware, for those of you who don't know, they're the studio behind like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Dark Souls is by them as well. You have Elden Ring, which is being developed, which is by them. Bloodborne is by FromSoftware. So a lot of big popular IPs, especially in that Souls-like genre. So the first rumor is coming from Miles at Windows Central, who on a recent podcast episode stated, in quotes, "I have heard some rumblings that Microsoft is working with FromSoftware on a sci-fi RPG." After that, he goes on to state that it is purely rumblings at this point. He doesn't know if you should put too much behind it, but it is one of those things that has come out here and there. So FromSoftware being a Japanese-based company here, John, a Japanese-based developer, he doesn't necessarily say that this would be an exclusive deal from Microsoft, but it is one of the things to keep in mind. It would be a very big jump for FromSoftware as well, going from kind of like that ancient Dark Souls-esque feel, Sekiro being that ancient Japan style, moving from that to something that sounds a bit more sci-fi based here. John's using his energy in Galaxy of Heroes.
No, actually, so side note, Joey, it's a very proud moment for me real quick. So you and I have a mutual friend that works on Capitol Hill. So about like 7-8 months ago, we broke COVID protocol and we got together for a drink, and he was telling me about this this bill idea that the senator he works for had, and they were looking for a name for this bill. And I gave one of my sarcastic replies and kind of like put the reasoning behind why it was so sarcastic, but at the same time, why it actually worked. I have just been informed that that's the bill title they're going to be going for, and it was actually just introduced on the floor of the Senate. So I'm going to add that to my two truths and a lie on my dating profiles there. So that was just kind of cool. That was just a really cool moment. Like, I just got a text message out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Sorry.
Wow. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
I get 0 royalties for it. Nothing.
But it is a cool fact. It is one of those fun things to
cool.
now have, be able to state in different Twitch chats here and there. So good stuff.
Sorry.
No. That's very exciting. Bringing us back to games, though, we are going to roll it back a little bit. We're going to introduce our own bill here, and this is FromSoftware, John. So sci-fi RPG, do you see them leaving that kind of feudal style and jumping into something sci-fi based next, or do you think this is just purely a rumor, one that should be swept under the rug?
I mean, look, sci-fi does well. Sci-fi is a genre that has always intrigued people. We always want to know what the future is going to hold. You take a look at the older generation, the baby boomer generation, they grew up with the Jetsons. Fun fact, the Jensens were supposed to take place during present day. Last time I checked, and I just looked out my window here, we do not have hover cars flying around. We do not have, buildings floating in the space, in the sky, and we just don't have that. The future and sci-fi and technology advancement is always something that has intrigued humans. So I think this would be great. A sci-fi RPG would be great. It's a genre that always works well. Why not? Why not do it? I mean, it's, look at all the hype around Anthem. Yeah, Anthem didn't pan out the way everyone wanted it to. There's still a lot of hype around it because it had that sci-fi-esque depiction of what the future could be. Same thing with Destiny. Same thing with Halo. Anything that has that sci-fi touch to it when it involves anything outside of the planet Earth, it intrigues people. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops, as awful as some of those game stories were, it still sold like hotcakes. Yeah, because it's Call of Duty, but because it went from a historical World War II-esque kind of game to a futuristic outer space kind of sci-fi genre for a shooter. And it intrigued people. People were interested by it. I think this would be a really cool move. Yeah, it's a rumor. Yeah, it's a little grain of salt here, but I think it would be pretty cool if they went this direction.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's not quite battle royale status, but it is starting to get more and more saturated. We did see Anthem. We've had Cyberpunk. You have a giant Halo coming out later this year. There's a number of other titles out there that have been announced and have not been announced that are going to stick with sci-fi as well. So it's one of those things that's getting more and more games jumping into that genre. But at the same point, unlike battle royales, there's a lot more differences that can come with a sci-fi game. Like, yes, you're going to get robots. You're going to get your flying cars. But the way you apply mods, or the way you customize your character's body, or the way you jump into different aspects, or like, why are we in this sci-fi world? Did the planet not survive and we had to move to another planet and now we're like a survival type of game? Or is it this corrupt authority taking over and driving all the taxis out of town because they want robots to come in and do this? Hey, there's just so many different storylines with sci-fi games that I feel like there's enough room to bring more into that genre, enough to add space travel in, like stuff like Star Citizen is out there and Elite Dangerous, and the ability to really use the full space and customize different planets. And I feel like there's enough variety to make these games different to still play within that same genre. So I think this is interesting. And again, Elden Ring is their next big game. It's going to be similar to the Souls aspect. Like, we're not looking at it's going to be in a different world. We've talked about it a bit before, but it is kind of in that same vein, that same similar style of those Souls games. It's going to play similar to a Souls game. It's going to be in a somewhat similar environment to a Souls game. So I would like to see them explore something different, something that's not Sekiro, something that's not Dark Souls, something that's very different. And I feel like going a sci-fi route could bring that very different. So going off of the rumor from Miles here from Windows Central, then we hop onto Reddit, where there is another rumor circulating. This one kind of in that similar vein with sci-fi. They're rumoring a mecha third-person RPG, saying it's going to feature multiplayer and be an open-world game in general. It's going to be a spiritual successor to Armored Core, where you're going to play as an android loyal to an AI supercomputer. Again, very sci-fi. Rumored to be published by Activision, coming to Xbox Series consoles, PS5, and PC in early 2023. So, with Miles saying one thing about something sci-fi, and now this other Reddit rumor, which again is Reddit, so take it with a giant grain of salt, coming out and also being somewhat sci-fi, I almost feel like, again, I don't want to give it credibility just on Miles hearing rumblings and some Reddit user posting it, but they do kind of stick together a bit with it kind of being fleshed out as a sci-fi game and then getting these additional details. And then Armored Core, we haven't seen any kind of sequel for that in quite a while. So it all kind of clicks in a way, even though you still want to have a grain of salt. I could see this happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue is that it's nothing. This news, if these two grains are true, people are entertaining it because it's something that a lot of people can foresee. They can look at this and go, okay, this makes sense. Yeah, sci-fi does well. Why wouldn't they want to jump into sci-fi? Okay, it makes sense. I would need to see more indications of something happening here. The old saying is, where there's smoke, there's fire. But you're not going to be able to blow a puff of smoke from a cigarette and tell me that there's a forest fire. And that's kind of like what this is that it's like, it's cool. It's somewhat believable because of the details that have been announced from these grains of salt that we got, nothing seems out of place. Nothing seems too crazy. So I think that's where the credibility comes in, is the information we do have doesn't seem crazy enough for people to be like, oh, there's no way this is true. It's people going, you know what? This actually would make sense. The information that we've discovered, if you will, discovered in air quotes here, from these grains of salt, do kind of line up to something that makes a whole lot of sense for a developer to do. So I think that's where the credibility, if you will, comes in, is that the fact that it makes sense and is not just crazy blabber on the internet.
Yeah, I think the biggest doubt right now is people thinking like they haven't done a game outside of these particular, I don't want to say genres, but these, I guess, time, and it's not even a time period though, but like settings in a sense. Like to go from the settings they've been using in stuff like Dark Souls all the way to sci-fi is very different compared to what they've done over what feels like the last 7 to 10 years. So I think that's where any kind of doubt is currently coming from. That outside of the fact it's a Reddit post, but these are different things to continue to explore and continue to look at. I think the possibility of something like a Souls-like based gameplay taken into a cyberpunky style universe could be really cool. It'd be hella difficult, but it would be really cool to see what they could end up really putting together in a sense, bringing their rough ideals from those difficulties of Dark Souls versus the rich lore of something like an Elden Ring brought into a new sci-fi universe. So I'm excited for it. Again, grain of salt, it could never happen. It could not even be in the thoughts of people at FromSoftware. But once you keep in mind, in case it does end up happening, according to Reddit, the project code name for this rumored game is Interstice. So take that as you will. We'll go ahead and continue to cover that one if we do hear more later down the line. Last but not least, just a couple other things to keep on your radar, and then we'll wrap up this episode under an hour today. New Monster Hunter Rise gameplay will be dropping at approximately 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. Podcast listeners, I don't know if we'll have this out before you hear this, but we'll go ahead and tweet about it as well. That will be coming out. There's also a Monster Hunter showcase of some sort this morning. I believe Jon and I both missed it. Jon, you didn't catch that by chance, did you?
Today at work? No, I didn't catch anything.
Yeah, so that was like 9 a.m. this morning. I didn't even know it was happening until I saw this Tuesday thing. If you guys wanted to go watch that back, I'm not really sure what they covered. Probably some kind of new expansion of sort for or Monster Hunter World would be my guess. Maybe they talked about Monster Hunter Rise, but you will be seeing Rise gameplay tomorrow. And then I believe there's also a community showcase like 5 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday for those interested in that as well. Last but not least, we covered it on the show, but Super Nintendo World is headed to Japan, Universal Studios Japan. And Jon, amidst the pandemic, Japan has been making their way through it. They have been trudging. Games have been delayed. Super Mario World was delayed, but Super Nintendo World will now be making its debut. It'll be opening March 18th over at Universal Studios Japan.
I've already booked my plane ticket. We're going.
I bet you have. LvLUp Live in Japan, Super Mario World. Watch us take down Bowser. Oh, by the way, this is completely unrelated. And the last topic we're talking about, is it just me or is it hilarious that Nintendo's like American-based president's last name is Bowser? I think his name is like Doug Bowser. I saw that today.
Oh my God, it's ironic.
I mean, just the irony of Nintendo being run by someone named Bowser.
It makes sense. I mean, it explains why Princess Peach keeps getting kidnapped.
Oh, there you go. Rerun that storyline. So
for the millionth time.
But people keep buying it. Not only do they buy it, Jon, but they'll pay more for it the longer it's been out. It's crazy. But hey, that's just Nintendo things. That's what they do.
Hey guys,
breaking news.
Breaking news. New Mario game coming out. Check this, right? You're going to go into a castle, right? Never been done before in Mario. You're going to be able to jump into levels through paintings. Also never been done before. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to collect enough coins and puzzle pieces to access the painting where the princess is being kept, because Bowser, guess what? You guessed it, stole the princess once again. Joey, it's been recycled so many times. I hate it. It's
hilarious though, isn't it? Like you look at like the new Star Wars trilogy, for example. People criticize the hell out of any similarities they saw between the original trilogy and the new trilogy. And now you have a game like Mario that just continues to come out over and over where the same basic principle is not changing. You're changing the environment, which they did in Star Wars, but the whole thing is just saying exactly the same. It's fascinating where people choose to take these battles, whether it be a cinema type of battle or whether it be some other type of game. Like oh my gosh, some of these games have gotten criticized to the end. I mean, Cyberpunk had its reasonings, and you look at some of these other storylines that are somewhat similar, but yeah, I mean, Mario, for the most part, just thinking about it, like, it's always let's rescue Princess Peach from Bowser, one way or another, it feels like. With that, let's go ahead and wrap up today's show, John. Just to give you guys a preview ahead, if the Microsoft Bethesda thing does happen on Thursday, we'll sum that up. We'll talk a little bit about what that means in total. We won't dive as much into speculation because we should have some answers by then. We'll talk about this new Monster Hunter Rise gameplay that is shown tomorrow. Break that down for you guys. We'll dive more into the esports side of things. There should be a few more roster moves happening by then. We have the NBA 2K League looking to start up, and LCS and LEC action is very much in the depth of itself. As we get closer to playoffs, we'll be talking a lot about that action on Thursday as well.
Well, Nation, that will do it for this edition of LvLUp Live. But before you go, head over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you will get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you haven't already done so, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch a live episode, the next live episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, leave us a review. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we'd love to hear from our entire community so much. We have multiple ways open to you to communicate with us. Joey, what are some of those ways?
Absolutely. The first and foremost is on Twitter. Find us at LvLUp Live. That's LvLUp Live. In addition to that, you can follow the umbrella company OTN Media over there as well. Twitter and Facebook at OTN Media, and on Instagram at OTN_media. Last but not least, hit us up on Twitch, twitch.tv/OTN Media. This show, LvLUp Live, Mondays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as well as a number of other streams throughout the week.
All right, make sure you tune in this Thursday, March the 11th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears and eyes a favor. Hit that sub and follow button here on Twitch to know when the next episode is ready for your viewing pleasures. We'll catch you all on Thursday. Have a great week. Remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online. And as always, level up.
I've seen this before. This mind will return.